Hello, everyone. I've gotten Martin here with me, and we're going to be talking about the facts of the Suzanne Morphew case. And for anyone who doesn't know who Suzanne Morphew Suzanne Morphew was a 49-year-old woman, beautiful woman, and she was reported missing on Mother's Day back in 2020. And I suspect that that was not the day that she actually ended up deceased. Anyway, at the beginning, it sounded like, and as Martin's little name tag there says, was no bike ride. That's for a reason. That's because originally it was reported that Suzanne had gone on a bike ride on Mother's Day all by herself, that her kids had been away on a road trip and were perhaps going to be back Mother's Day afternoon. And anyway, her husband was conveniently out of town, and he spoke with their kids on the phone and got a neighbor to go over to the house. And then he suggested that they look for her bike. And then he suggested that she had gone for a bike ride and disappeared from this bike ride. And evidence, once the bike was found, etc., showed that she did not go on a bike ride, that most likely someone, Barry, in my opinion, the husband, tossed the bike down an embankment to make it look like she'd gone on a bike ride. Anyway, straightforward case of a missing woman quickly turned into a nefarious case of a missing woman and suspected murder. And the husband was put on trial. The court was basically a mockery. The district attorney's office had issues. The law enforcement had issues. The defense attorneys were showboating. It was a royal mess. And then the charges got dropped, but without prejudice, so that the charges can be brought again. And then this past summer, Suzanne's remains were found. And we're going to be going over the facts. Martin has done so much work. Martin and Kurt both are great researchers and have painstakingly gone through the evidence. And we're going to discuss a little bit of where this evidence that we're going to be talking about comes from. And now I'll give it away to Martin.
Hello, can you hear me? Good. Hi, folks. Well, basically, I got into this through COVID, at the time everyone was locked down. And I just, like everyone else, stuck indoors. I picked up on some programs on my laptop just to pass the time. And one of them was Adventures with Purpose. And that episode that I was watching at the time happened to be in Salida with Kurt that time. And when I seen the flyers, I was interested in the case, and that's how I got into this case. And I've been on it ever since. There's not a day that goes by that I don't do something on this case. What we're going to discuss here today is from the preliminary hearings. So it's information that came from there about the messages that were sent allegedly from Suzanne to her lover, Jeff Libler, at the time. Let me see. So, Jules, do you want me to start talking about this, or?
Yes, I do. And first, I'd like to tell the audience that you have not just made this stuff up. You didn't pull it out of your butt or anything like that. You've done a lot of research. You've downloaded the documents that are publicly accessible, etc. Correct?
Yes. So I've all the timestamps. So like there's about over 800 pages in the court documents. So I got all the court documents, and I went through every time that was mentioned on every document, and I have them all listed and all in date order, time and date order. So I was able to work out exactly what happened on, well, basically from May 7th on up to May 10th, May 11th even. With the and we also had the affidavit, and we had other court documents. So all my information comes from court documents, basically. So it's I can reference stuff if people need it or whatever like that. But basically, yeah, it's there for everyone to see. So nothing made up. Okay, Jules. We have this issue at the minute, don't we, Jules, with this microphone. So so Jules has to
Yeah,
you explained there. You explained there,
tried to
Jules.
push it away. Hopefully, I'm not too loud now. I have a really nice microphone, but sometimes it blows eardrums out.
It sounds good to me. Yeah.
Okay. Anyhow, Martin mentioned the messages to Suzanne's lover, Jeff Libler, and before anybody gets any ideas about Suzanne, because of that fact, Suzanne and her husband Barry had been in a very toxic relationship for a very long time. They originally lived in Indiana. Suzanne and Jeff had known each other since high school. There had been a point where before she married Barry, she and Jeff got very close. Suzanne had cancer and she beat it when she was in Indiana, and then she had her two miracle babies, and her oldest started going to college in Colorado. So she, Barry, and their younger daughter moved to Salida, well, actually Maysville, which is near Salida, in Chaffee County. And they were trying to make another go of it. The relationship was trash. Suzanne also got cancer again, right around the time that they moved. And then going through COVID and living out in the middle of nowhere all by herself, and Barry being an alpha personality and not really caring about anything. Suzanne was more of a trophy than anything else. So she was lonely. She was worried. Jeff actually worked for a pharmaceutical company. She wasn't looking for a relationship when she first reached out to him, and it started off as more of a friendship thing, and it built into something more. And I don't begrudge Suzanne any of this, and I'm not going to tolerate anyone trashing her for that fact. And now Martin can get into the conversations.
Okay. So, as I said earlier, I went through all the well, there was 59. There was 59 messages that were sent between Suzanne and Jeff on May 9th. The majority of them came from Suzanne's device. So we have 25 of those messages. Now, the messages that we have here that I'm going to discuss today are from the late, basically the afternoon time. There is a couple of messages about 9:33, but the rest of them are in the afternoon. The ones in the morning, we have a couple of those messages, but there's no record of any of those messages in any documents. But I can tell you that those messages, the messages that the Suzanne and Jeff sent to each other, we have before May 9th, on May 7th, on May 8th, and on other days leading up in April, 24th of April, I think it was 21st of April, there was more messages. But those messages are completely different than the messages that you're going to hear now. The messages that were sent between Suzanne and Jeff were, as Jules described, that they were lovers, like, and so those messages, that's how they were. They were loving, warm, long, well thought out messages. There wasn't loads of messages. There was just long 64 words and whatever that. And then on this day, on the Saturday, all of a sudden that changes. So from 29, on average 29 to 30 words per message, it reduces down to 4 to 5 words per message. And when you look at all the messages that happened on that day, so you have the messages between Suzanne's device and Jeff Libler. Then you have the messages between Barry and Suzanne's device. And then you've got the messages from Suzanne's device back to Barry. All those messages, I believe every message that was sent, whether it was an SMS or was a message through LinkedIn, were all sent by Barry that day. And you will see as we get on that is the case. So I'm going to start here at the top. So on the timeline, I don't know if you can put that timeline up there, Jules, for everyone to see. But it starts at 12:02 in the morning of May 9th. So this is just after midnight, and Suzanne's device is active. And it's just this, I'm not going to go deep into this because we'll get this maybe on later on or maybe on another day, because there's a lot here. So at 12:02, Suzanne's device is maybe signaling another iPhone that is close by it. And at 12:06, Barry's phone goes into airplane mode for 6 hours and 40 minutes. And then at 2:27 in the morning, Suzanne's device is active again, signaling another phone maybe close to it, another iPhone. At 6:46 a.m., Barry's phone comes out of airplane mode. And at 7:22 in the morning, Barry's phone registers locations at Tailwinds. It's a site in Ponce Springs where Barry was working. And he actually had an apartment down there when they moved out of Puma Pad. That's where they moved to, down by Tailwinds. So at 7:22, his phone is registered down there. So now we have the first message that was sent. It's at 7:35 a.m. Suzanne's device sent a message to Sheila Oliver about the wedding Sheila's daughter was having the following day. And while that message is going on, Barry has just started up his Bobcat. And the Bobcat is actually on the back of the trailer. So the truck is the Bobcat and the trailer, and the Bobcat's sitting up in the trailer. And he started up the Bobcat. And it's just running away. And at 7:35, these messages, 2 messages that have been sent to Sheila Oliver. These are the only 2 messages that was sent from Suzanne's device to Sheila Oliver that day. Now, Sheila did reply to this. She sent, in total, I think Sheila sent 5 messages. She sent 2 in the morning, probably after she received this message. And they were opened. There were Snapchats, and they were opened, but they were not replied. And then there was 3 in the early evening, in the late afternoon, early evening, was 3 more which were never opened. There was 3 messages that Sheila had sent to Suzanne which were never opened. And this is totally out of the norm for Suzanne.
That's what I was about to mention, is that especially, ladies out there, we all know when we talk to our besties, we're not just going to read their message and not do any kind of response.
Yeah, totally. And Sheila says this herself in the affidavit. She said that she was very prompt, and when there was a message sent to her, she would get back to her as soon as possible, kind of thing. As Jules just said, like, as best friends would probably come before family members. So that's the message at 7:35 in the morning. So now Barry's at Tailwinds, and his plan was to pick up Morgan, which is Morgan Gentile. She was a worker, and he was supposed to pick her up in the morning and then drive to a site which it's called the Beach site. It's down the County Road 105 on the Arkansas River, and it's about 5 miles away from, or maybe 7 miles, probably about 7 miles, probably from the Tailwind site, and so that was the plan. So at 7:42 a.m., Barry calls Gene Mormon, which is Suzanne's dad, and as he's driving along, just passing DSI, which is the company that Barry was contracting to, and they're along the Highway 50, just as you're coming into Salida, they're on the left hand side, and so that's Barry gives Gene a call. We don't know anything more about that call. Only that was at 7:42 in the morning. Now, at 8:21, Suzanne's device messages Jeff, "I had a fine, quiet night." And Barry is actually on his Bobcat at this stage, sitting on his Bobcat at County Road 105 at the beach site. And his Bobcat is just after starting up, and it's idling. It's just sitting there, idling away. It's not moving. There's no miles per hour. It's just sitting there. So he's sitting on his Bobcat. There's nothing happening. And then there's another message, and it says, picked up pizza, looked around town at houses for sale. And then there's another message then which says, still talk of Arizona. So these 3 messages are sent, as I said, they're the earliest ones that we have. There could be ones before this, but I would say the majority of messages that was sent that day, the other 30 odd messages, were sent after this message while he was at that site in Country Road 105. And I'll tell you why in a little while, why I believe that. So Barry's Bobcat is shut down between 8:49 and 9:33. So his Bobcat is down there at the beach site. He's down there with Morgan. She's raking the beach stand and making it flat. Anyone remembers that conversation? And so that's what's going on at the time. But for 40 minutes, excuse me, for 40 minutes, that Bobcat is sitting idle. It is actually shut down. So Barry is making, at that particular time, at 9:33, Suzanne's device texts Barry up the road from Spartan West Trails and sent him a picture of a house. So this was about a house for sale that was sent from Suzanne's device to Barry's device. And it ties in with that, had a fine, quiet night, looked at property. so it ties in with that message. And then all of a sudden we have a photograph of a picture of a house for sale, and the address is Spartan West Trails, which is right beside where Suzanne done her biking, up at Little Rainbow Trail. That's where Suzanne used to do her. Now, if Suzanne did speak about Macy and herself looking at to move into Salida, maybe get a job, and both of them get jobs and live in an apartment in Salida. But they wouldn't be thinking about moving back up into the mountains, and that's where this is. Spartan West Trails is up the mountain. It's not right in the town.
Yeah, that does not sound like what Suzanne had been saying she wanted to do. She was wanting an apartment or townhouse type thing in town, uh, so the town's easily accessible, so that she and Macy could get jobs if they needed to, etc.
I don't think as well, Jules, that um, a woman on her own or her and her daughter would like to be out in the middle of nowhere. And if you look where this house was for sale, it's out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you have the Rainbow Trail, which is zips all the way around the mountain there. But it's very, you'll find one house here, and then the next house might be 500 yards, maybe. Next thing you have maybe a driveway up to a house. So it's basically like they were up in Puma Path, out in the middle of nowhere. I just don't believe for 1 minute that that would enter her mind that she would want to be walking distance from the shops and all that type of thing. Close to Macy's, the college and stuff like that. So
Exactly, and from
maybe
all
close to the church as well.
yeah,
all her friends and stuff.
yeah, Suzanne was a very friendly person by all accounts, and that she had conversations with people in the parking lot of stores. If she pulled in and recognized someone, she would talk with them, and it just doesn't sound like she would want to go be isolated.
It's part of the story. Barry's kind of a story. I'll send a picture of a house up by the little Rainbow Trail where Suzanne's bikes. You know what I mean? It's all about the bike. Everything seems to be about the biking and hiking and all this kind of thing for his story. You'll see that as we go on, actually. So as I said, that was sent. That message, there was obviously two messages sent, or there is there's two accounts of this. One says up the road from Spartan West Trails, sent a picture of the house. Barry is sitting on his bobcat at the time. And the other one says in Salida on King Gulch Trail. And King Gulch Trail, it's in the same area. King Gulch Trail and Spartan West Trails are in the same area. So maybe it was a house that he'd seen online and took a snap of that and sent it via Suzanne's device to his device. So Barry calls at 9:46. Barry calls Suzanne's device, and Barry and Morgan are in the truck on Highway 50 now. They're heading. They've finished up in the beach site, and they're moving now to the next site. So they're up the fifth Rainbow Boulevard, and they pulled into a gas station, which is Sinclair gas station along the 50, and that's at 9:46. And so Barry calls Suzanne's device at this stage while they're at the Sinclair's gas station. And then at 9:49, Barry calls Suzanne's device again, and now they're just at Tailwinds. This is the site he was at in the beginning. So he then stops at Tailwinds for about 4 or 5 minutes. And 1 second now. He texts Suzanne now at 9:40. So he calls her at 9:46, then calls her again at 9:49, and then just immediately afterwards he texts her and says, "Hey." So it's next thing he texts her and says, "Want to hike?" So we 2 messages. One says, "Hey," and then the next one immediately afterwards says, "Want to hike?" And
isn't this a bit odd? Also, what with I think Barry and Suzanne weren't really communicating with each other very much prior to this week, and especially this Saturday.
100%, Jules. Like there wasn't one message between them for nearly 14 weeks between up to May 5th. It was May 5th, no, May 4th. Sorry, May 4th. So May 4th was the first communication between Barry and Suzanne. So that was to tell Barry ringing, contacting Suzanne to tell her to that Macy was going to join Mallory on a road trip, and would she be able to drop her up to Gunnison, I'd say. So that happened the following day, in May 5th. So we're only talking, we're on May 9th here. So we're only talking 4 days beforehand. There was no messages. There was nothing. And the day before this, which is the Friday, this is when they had their massive big argument in the morning. Barry never came home. Barry stayed out on Thursday night and he never came home. And while he was out on the Thursday night, Suzanne composed her a list, which has been dubbed by the law enforcement as her 50 grievances, or list of grievances. So Barry then, in that morning, so at that morning, it's 7:02 in the morning, Suzanne backs up this list of grievances to her iCloud. Around the same time as this, Barry's after getting the worst text he ever got. This is what he says in the affidavit. That the worst text he ever got from Suzanne was that same morning that she backed up this list of grievances, and he deleted it. But that was never recovered from his phone. But the law enforcement got this from the iCloud account, and so I believe what happened there is Suzanne sent this message basically telling Barry everything. She knew everything that was going on. She was sick of the BS. And she just said, I know exactly. So if you look through the list of grievances, I don't know if anyone has before or whatever, but it might go there another day. But the list of grievances, if you read them, this was personally addressed to Barry from Suzanne. And basically telling him exactly that she knew exactly what he'd been up to all over the years. Now, some of it we know from history, we know it, but some of the stuff we don't know what it means. You know what I mean? Maybe some of our family does, and maybe some of our friends, maybe Sheila knows some of this stuff, and maybe the daughters do, but we don't know. Do you know what I mean? So, but this message that was sent on 7 o'clock in the morning to Barry, and that she'd backed up into her iCloud at the same time, then that started a massive argument. And next, then you have a message then to Barry from Suzanne, which I think is a sarcastic kind of a text. It's about, she said, sorry, I didn't message about Rob Bazell, which is a customer who he went to on who the house he's actually heading to now was Rob Mazel's house, and she was supposed to invoice for this job. But it's strange that Barry's looking, Suzanne's talking about this, he's looking for this invoice, and the job is only kind of starting on the Saturday. But it says, but basically she was saying to him that she will do his invoicing for him if he wants in the future. So that's telling him that I'm leaving you. You know what I mean? I'm going. So if you want me to do your invoicing in the future, I'll do your invoice for you. It'll be like, I'm going to be civil. I want to do this civilly. I don't want to. I'm not creating any drama. I'll do this civilly. And then the next message is to her sister, Melinda, and she spells her heart out to Melinda and tells Melinda everything that's been going on in the marriage, which Melinda had no idea about. It had never been discussed with her before, and Suzanne would never discuss these type of things with her before. So, you all right there, Jules?
Yeah, I was just scrolling
Okay.
on the document.
Okay, good. So basically, that's what happened on the Saturday. So they're not lovey-dovey. This is off the back. Saturday is off the back of a massive big argument on Friday morning, and they had another massive argument on Wednesday. So the girls went away, and then the following day they had a massive argument. Then Barry never came home, and then they had another argument on Friday morning, which was a big blow up. And then this is the following day. I know we're kind of jumping. We're jumping from Friday to Saturday, but it's important because what we have here, we've got stuff. There is information there for Friday, but the information that we have here, I think, is more important for people to understand about the messages themselves.
Exactly, and just the fact that the messages on Saturday are total night and day from what Suzanne's previous messages were like.
Have you got them there in front of you, Jules? Those messages, the ones that were sent prior. Have you got them?
I don't have them in front of me, but it just, I've got all the files. I've got the lawsuit. I've got the case against Barry. I've got the copy of the transcripts from the first weekend and all this stuff. And it's just crazy because you look at these messages from Suzanne from before Saturday that they managed to share in either the arrest affidavit or were brought up in court, and they're well thought out. They're I guess, for lack of better explanation,
it makes sense.
It's conversational too.
It is. There's a conversation. That's exactly it, Jules. There's a conversation in those messages.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even if you actually look at Jeff's side of the messages that he sent, now he only sent something like 5 messages on May 9th that we know of. Mm-hmm. Like there is other ones that he actually sent, but not many, because that's the other thing. Like out of all the messages, there's 25 messages that we have. 20 of them came from Suzanne's and only 5 from Jeff's. You know what I mean? It's just, like we know Jeff sent 14 messages between May 7th and May 11th. He sent 14 messages. That's what Jeff sent. And that would be probably average for Jeff. If looking back at other messages, that's kind of, a couple of messages here and there, where on Saturday, it was just like the voice for some reason was like crazy, because there was like this urgency to keep flying out messages one after another. Like by the time one message was sent, another message was sent, and they don't even make any sense.
Yeah.
And this is it's not so much that the messages were only like 4, average of 5 words. It's that they're like shot out, they're spat out these messages, blah blah blah, all one after another, as if there's some type of an urge that there's a fire or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like, get out of the house, or there's somebody coming or whatever. Do you know, that's how the messages are sent. But we're led to believe that Suzanne was laying out in the sun, you know, chilling, drinking, chilling. You know, this is what the picture Barry was painting.
Yeah.
That Suzanne's laying out there, like, as if, you know, she's having a few drinks and she's, you know, no urgency with her whatsoever. She's got nothing to do. You know, she's got all the time in the world, supposedly. And but yet there's not a message sent. Only when Barry goes to DSI. So DSI is Barry went to get a blade changed on his Bobcat. And so I'm going to jump back into where we were. So we got the messages. There's a phone call at 9:46. Barry calls Suzanne while he's at the gas station. Then he gets up the tailwinds. He calls her again. He texts her, "Hey." Then he messages her, want to hike, and then 2 minutes later, what's that? What's the one after that? 1 second. I'll just get it. Sorry, folks. 1 second now. 9:40. 9:40, 9:52. Suzanne's device texts Barry back, "Where?" Do you know what I mean? This is Barry is parked, the tailwinds at this stage, parked up in his truck, and the Bobcat's on the back, and the Bobcat was running. So the Bobcat is strange. Like, the Bobcat is running on the back of the on the trailer since the morning when he rang, or when he messaged Sheila Oliver, and he left. He had the Bobcat running all this time. So the Bobcat's been running until it was shut down in at 9:33 or just before 9:33 in the morning. The Bobcat was running all the time. So now he goes up to this job. This job is Hutchinson Lane. It's Rob Mazel's property, and he's supposed to be working there. But he's going there at it is 10 o'clock in the morning when he gets there, and he leaves there at 11. So he goes there for an hour, and that hour, I can tell you now that he does nothing in that hour. His Bobcat is basically shut down or idle. There's no mileage. He drives into the back of the property, comes back out to his truck, and back in again. But all the other time in between, he's either making calls or he's sitting on his Bobcat idling. So he's receiving messages, and he's probably, from what I believe, he's sending messages. So we get to that part there now. So 9:52, we have Suzanne says, "Where?" And Barry's parked the tailwinds. Now he's just driving up the road now to Hutchinson Lane. At 2 minutes past 10, Barry calls. He's at Hutchinson Lane now, and he calls Justin Cribb, who was the guy who's going to do the blade for him, change the blade. At 10:30, Suzanne's device texts Barry, "Do we have old summer tires for the Rover?" So Suzanne's like supposed to be laying out on out in the backyard at the breezeway, and she's coming up with, "Do we have some old tires for the Rover?" You know, like, as if, why can you not wait till I come home to talk about these things? Like, you're coming home, like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, this girl just can't stop herself. She's bothering him all day long.
And it sounds like, you
Overkill.
what I'm driving at is that sounds an awful lot like Barry instead of Suzanne, because Suzanne is not all disjointed like that, and we've
Yes.
all seen some interviews with Barry now, and we know that he is
Yeah.
disjointed like that.
So we've got this just out of the blue. Do we have old summer tires for the Rover? And then Barry's on his Bobcat, and 6 minutes later, Suzanne's the voice text, "Want to meet for a hike?" Right. So this is Barry first said, "Want to hike." Now she said, "Want to meet for a hike," and Barry's again. His Bobcat is idle when that message is sent. Not working, not moving, just sitting idle. And then at 10:48, Barry responds, "No, I'll come home." At 10:48, and then let's move down a bit more. At 10:49, Suzanne takes Barry, "Get hot tub stuff," right? So just so happens Barry's around the corner from where they get the hot tub stuff. He's just there by the Sullivan Spa. Actually, he's at the Poncha Lumber. Poncha Lumber there is, and they probably sell hot tub stuff as well. But
Almost like Suzanne had ESP or was in the truck
yeah,
with Barry or something to know
yeah,
that he was there, and she might as well ask him to pick up hot
yeah.
tub
It's
stuff for
while
the
he's
broken hot
passed,
tub.
all of a sudden, like, isn't it strange that all of a sudden that she's asking him for hot tub stuff just after the tires and after the hike, and now and he's on his way past the. He has to pass the Stovin Spa to go home, right?
Mhm.
And so he's now left Hutchinson Lane, and he's at 11:14. Her password changes on her Facebook, right? And he's sitting at Poncho Springs Lumber at the time. He's probably I think he's in there probably getting hot tub chemicals in the lumber place, because they want that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
And also there's a food truck there, right? There's a food truck there in that Poncha Springs Lumber, and I would be surprised if he was getting himself some lunch. So at 11:15, a minute later, Barry purchases something at the Poncha Springs Lumber. We don't know. It doesn't say what it is. And then at 11:19:50, Barry calls Suzanne's device again. And in 11:27, Barry arrives at Puma Path, right?
Mhm.
At 11:28, Suzanne's device, this is a minute later, Suzanne's device messages Jeff, he's headed home. Barry's already
No.
home.
Yeah.
I mean, he's home. He's been home a minute. And why did she say that Barry's headed home? She didn't know that he was headed home. He said he was heading home, but she didn't say what time or anything like that. You know what I mean? It was just, "No, well, I'm heading home." If that message should have went out after when he said, "No, I'll head home. I'm going to head home." Not wait till Barry's at home and then said, "No, he's heading home." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So at 12:28, she says, "Jeff, I'll be spotty." So that basically, "I'll be spotty" means what? That the communication, it's poor, Wi-Fi or whatever. Or what does that mean to you? "I'll be spotty."
Well, I guess it's meaning the Wi-Fi or whatever, but to me, spots are zits. So it's like, I'll be covered in zits.
Yeah, but the somebody said that on one of the podcasts that Barry used to listen to these podcasts, and they're about murders, and there was one about a small girl on a bike ride and whatever. But it was all different podcasts, and one of the podcasts that was actually said that I'd be spotty on one of the
Oh,
podcasts.
wow.
Yeah, somebody
That's
sent this.
interesting.
Yeah,
Because,
somebody sent that to me on I don't know, was it on Twitter or was it on Reddit? I'm not too sure, but yeah. So at 11:28, Barry's at home, and Suzanne's saying, "Well, he's headed home, and I'll be spotty," you know.
uh,
But it's
you know,
crazy.
yeah, and with Jeff and her having this relationship, this friendship, this, however you want to describe it, you would think that she wouldn't have to say that she was going to be spotty because,
Yeah,
among other things, she just said that Barry was on his way home. So
like
obviously she's not to be
I,
texting in front of him.
I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Like I'm just going to head to the bathroom, or I'm just going to put the kettle on, or I'm just going to feed the cat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean.
exactly.
These This is crazy. These messages are just crazy. So going on a bit more, then we have Barry calls Trent. Now, when Barry arrives home at this time, now remember Barry's just coming home for um, an early lunch or something, and he arrives home at 11:28, and he leaves then over 2 hours later. You know, he leaves 2 hours and 10 minutes later. I think he leaves to go get his blade done, which is I think is a bit crazy myself. You know what I mean? And he said that he was having veggie soup with Suzanne, right?
Yeah.
But when he comes home, he actually parks just inside the gate or outside the gate, right? He doesn't park inside the gate; he parks outside the gate, and he goes wander. His phone is plotted walking down towards the RV park, and so there's one at 12:20. There's another one a little bit earlier than that, and one a little bit later than that, and then there's one right in the backyard. Back in the backyard, his phone is there's a ping off his phone in the backyard where Suzanne basically is supposed to be laying out. So so he's texting Trent, his friend Trent Howard, his good buddy Trent Howard, I should say, and then he texts Justin Cribb, I'm home now. Give me a little more time. He wants a little bit more time before he heads down to get his blade changed, and then at 1:40, Barry leaves to head to DSI. At 1:42, Suzanne's device messages Jeff. Like 2 minutes later, guess who is home is alone? Guess who is alone again? Right. So 2 minutes. He's only gone out the gate, and she's texting. Guess who is alone again? Barry calls Cribb at 1:45. And then at 1:46, he texts Tim Calco about the backhoe for his Bobcat. And then at 1:47, he calls Tim Calco now. He messages him first, then he calls him. And then at 1:47:21, he called Suzanne. Now he's after spending 2 hours and whatever at home. And he's not even gone. He's not even down at Poncha Springs now, and he's ringing her Suzanne's device again, and it only lasts 2 seconds. The call only lasts 2 seconds, but he calls her, and then next thing he calls Jason Hardwick, which is one of his supervisors in DSI, and then next thing he's arriving at DSI, but that's by the camera in DSI. 1:51:09, it says Barry arrives at DSI, but the camera in DSI is 4 minutes out, and I know that because number one, he couldn't possibly drive from Puma Path to DSI in 11 minutes, with the trailer and the Bobcat.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, I can tell from the minute he gets out from his telematics show that when he arrives there, I'll just say it to you in a second here. At 1:51, Barry calls Suzanne's device again. This is the second call. Now he's still not at DSI at this stage. He's probably just passing the Stove and Spa around that area. So he's called Suzanne's phone twice now in leaving the house. And he's called all these other people. While he's in his truck, they're all on speed dial, and these are all on his his Bluetooth. So next thing, he arrives at DSI at 1:55:09. Barry arrives at DSI according to his Bobcat and his truck telematics. At 1:55:48, Barry opens the driver's door of his truck. At 1:55:53, Barry closes the truck door. At 1:56:09, Barry starts up the Bobcat and drives to the shed where Crib is at DSI. Is Bobcat like? And at 1:56:42, Barry shuts down the Bobcat. So at 1:56:42, Barry is in with Crib, and he shuts down the Bobcat, and now Crib is there to change the blade on his Bobcat, which should only take 5-10 minutes at tops. Do you know what I mean? Depending if some of the bolts have to be cut off or heated with a blowtorch or something, But so at 2:03, Suzanne sends Jeff the sunbathing selfie. This famous sunbathing selfie. At 3 minutes past 2. At 4 minutes past 2, Jeff Libler messages Suzanne, "How did you get alone?" So he hasn't actually seen the sunbathing selfie at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
He's replying to the message, which she says, "Guess who's alone again?" You've been at 1:42. So this is 25 minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "How did you get alone?" So Suzanne's device messages Jeff, "He's always gone somewhere." This is at 2:04:51. At 2:04:59, which is 8 seconds later, Suzanne's device messages Jeff, "It never stops." So this is the start. You got the sunbathing selfie at 2:03. We don't have the seconds for that, but we know it's 2:03. We don't know how many seconds. But then 2:04:51, you get the message, "She's always gone somewhere." And then 2:04:59, which is 7 seconds later, "It never stops." Then 2:05:02, which is another 3 seconds later or so, you have "Fine with me."
Yeah, and it's just kind of crazy when you see it right there in front of you to think that you're supposed to believe that this was Suzanne typing this. Suzanne was an educated woman. Suzanne
100%.
Suzanne spoke and wrote in complete sentences, and I would suspect that if Suzanne had written this, it would have been all in one paragraph, not text after text after text.
And that's the way she wrote.
Plus, there would be like an explanation or something about, and the only thing that comes into my mind when I see that, where "he's always gone somewhere and it never stops," that sounds more like something that Barry would say to describe how busy and how much work he does.
Yeah. Oh, yes. There is that as well. You have to remember, right? The night before, the messages. On May 7th, that Suzanne is talking about how Barry's treating her so bad to Jeff, and that it's going to be tough. Things are going to be tough over the next couple of days. This is how she's talking about Barry. Things are going to be tough for Barry over the next couple of days. Talking to Jeff, could he stay on the phone with her a bit longer if he could? Because like she knew what was coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she was going to tell him one way or the other this was going to get sorted this weekend when the girls were away. And so she tells him. And on the Friday, but on the Thursday, there's you can see with the messages, they're loving messages, number one, and then there's this at the end of it, things are going to be tough and and sad, like my heart, that makes you read those messages, it really affects you. But so then we just go back to this again. So we got 3 of these messages again. Look, he's always gone somewhere. 7 seconds later, it never stops. 3 seconds later, fine with me. 11 seconds later, thank you, babe. Then another 7 seconds later, I'm just in love with you. And then another 26 seconds later, what you up to? Now, what the hell is going on there, right?
Yeah, that doesn't sound like Suzanne. That sounds like Barry, because
this sounds like a guy somebody's in it who wants to get a load of messages across to somebody. They've got a short window to get these messages across, and they don't make any sense. Do you know what I mean? So I've got another theory about this, but why they don't make sense. But it's strange. It's so strange. They just don't make any sense. And even the judge was shaking his head in court. He couldn't understand. He kept asking them to repeat. How did you get a loan from Jeff? You know what I mean? He was saying that even that doesn't make sense. I think when the sunbathing selfie was sent to Jeff, I think he was shocked. I think when he seen that sunbathing selfie, he knew. He knew because he like even Kurt said to me, he says that doesn't make sense. That, for Jeff to say, "How did you get a loan?" You know what I mean? It's like he's missed out a couple of words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be more like something buried, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we get that. He's always gone somewhere. It never stops. Fine with me, babe. It's fine with me. Thank you, babe. I'm just in love with you. What you up to? So that is the selfie, and then there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 messages between 2:03 and 2:05:46 from Suzanne's device.
That's crazy. Whoops.
That is crazy. So then Jeff messages, what you up to is the message to him. And he says, cleaning up outside with wife. Cleaning up outside, and wife just went to Costco and daughter went running. Now, when they talked to each other, they mentioned like Barry and Macy and Mallory and whatever. They mentioned the family. Now, all of a sudden, Jeff is not mentioning names. He's saying wife, daughter.
Yeah.
Now he's got a load of daughters. Do you know what I mean? He's got 3 or 4, I think. He's got daughters. So he's got 6 kids anyway. I think there's a lot of girls in there, I think.
Yeah.
So I find this very strange. This Jeff's replies. So then Jeff replies then again to the what you call them, want to strip down and get naked, LOL, laugh out loud, right? So, and Jeff is probably just being funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then next thing, Suzanne's the voice. Oh man, this is so Jeff sends the one at 2:07:01, and then 2:07:30. So 29 seconds later, Suzanne's the voice. Oh man, and then can you talk or video? Another message. So one 28. So there's 8 seconds between that one, and then another 6 seconds later, you've got our video. Then you've got another, say, 16 seconds later, you've got I can load up WhatsApp, and then Jeff said, got to check with the kids to see whether or not I'm able to. So, but that's about another minute later. So at 2:09 then, right, just after Jeff sends that return, Barry's back up on the Bobcat now. So Trent's finished the blade, and Barry's now loading the Bobcat back up on top of the trailer, right? Now there's no messages from Suzanne's device now while Barry's moving the Bobcat, right? So now at 2:11, Suzanne's device. Now the Bobcat's up at 2:10:16. The Bobcat is up on top of the thing, and the SIM card is removed. Right at 2:10:16. At 2:11:21, Suzanne's device says, "Okay." Right, and then at 2:11:20, 4 seconds later, I'm on WhatsApp. That was the last message that was sent by Suzanne. By Suzanne's device, not by Suzanne. That was the last message sent by her phone to Jeff, right? It was at 2:11:25. But if you look at it, Barry, there's a gap between 2:08 is what she says, I can load up WhatsApp, and then the next one is 2:11. Why is there that gap? All the messages are only seconds between each other. And then all of a sudden there's a gap. And in that gap, Barry's driving the Bobcat, loading the Bobcat up on top of the trailer, under the eyes of the camera, CCTV camera that's there. So, you understand me?
Yeah, it's too much to be a coincidence in my book, anyway.
Too many coincidences.
That every time that Suzanne's device is texting on Saturday, Barry is sitting still. Yes. And then whenever it's not texting, Barry's on the move.
Well, interesting what happens after this. A minute later, after Suzanne sends that last text, Barry gets a call from Kim's gym, right? At exactly a minute and 14 seconds. Yeah, a minute and 14 seconds after that. Kim's gym, she texts or calls Barry for 1 minute and 36 seconds. So there's no messages going back. Then next thing, Barry leaves and heads to Kim's gym at 2:14. He leaves DSI. At 2:17:55, Barry calls Kim's gym the last 5 seconds. At 2:26:05, Barry calls Suzanne's device, which lasts 4 seconds. At 2:26, again, Barry texts Suzanne that he's done and he's headed home. Right? At 2:26. So where is the call or text message to Jeff Libler then at 2:26 to say he's heading home? Do you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, he's spotty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If she said that earlier, why not again?
Yeah. Exactly. Why change the mind? Well, do you know what I mean? It's also weird, but we know when you know what's going on, it's not so weird. Do you know what I mean? But so anyway, we know then that after that, there's more calls. Like there's another one from Kim's gym for 3 minutes and 22 seconds. That's around the time that Barry's seen on the CCTV camera just by the SI. And then he's seen another CCTV TV camera at he messages Suzanne at 2:31 p.m., which is it's just past Anytime Fitness. Did you leave?
Huh.
Now, that is odd to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it could be just his crazy texting,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be something else. Remember I said
Yeah.
earlier on that there was something else that bothered me about some of the strange messages? This kind of bothers me. That particular message. Did you leave at 2:31?
Yeah.
So then at 2:34, he passes the gas station there, the Shell gas station on Poncha Springs. So he's on the run home now, and at 2:39, um, Jeff sends a message. My crew is back. Well, half of them. Like that's kind of a normal message from Jeff. Do
Mm-hmm.
you know, my
Yeah.
crew is back. Like half of them, even though. And then the next one at 2:46 is just after Barry arrives home. Barry arrives home at 2:44. At 2:46, Jeff Libler messages Suzanne the voice, "Hey, your weather looks great," right?
Mm-hmm.
And now immediately after that, Barry shuts down airplane mode. Barry puts the phone into airplane mode. There's no more communications from Barry after that. To anyone.
Interesting.
So not only does Suzanne's phone stop messaging people, so does Barry's. It's like they're joined at the hip.
Yeah. That's
Do you know what I mean?
and that thing where he asks if she left. Well, if you left. It's bothering me because it it doesn't really make sense, and it makes me wonder whether he was talking to Suzanne or if he was like trying to message someone else.
Yes. That is another that's what could be going on there.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a person who's receiving these messages from Jeff Libler, and there could be messages then going to Barry on a second device, want to know what to send.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why some of the messages don't match up with Jeff Libler's messages. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and why
Because he's just filling in. He's just like throwing stuff in there. But I said this to Kurt. I said this about nearly 2 years ago. We were talking about the messages, these 59 messages to between Jeff. And I said, they're probably all little small messages like Barry writes,
Mm-hmm.
Want to go for a hike, I'm done, blah, blah, blah. All these little messages. And when I got these messages and I read them in from the preliminary transcripts, I couldn't believe it. It actually made me upset because it's something I think that law enforcement could not miss this.
Yeah. It just really sets off things in your head. And one of the things that bothered me, even before I realized that there had been the trip to Mexico and stuff, the sunbathing picture bothered me just because I was freaking cold when I went out there just a couple days after Suzanne was reported missing, because at that time, the only word out was that there was a missing woman from Indiana who had gone on a bike ride. And so we loaded up the 4x and went out there bringing, food, water, blankets, etc., in case, she had fallen off her bike someplace or something, because it hadn't been reported yet that her bike had been found or anything. And it was freaking cold. And then, then in court, they're saying, oh, this is the last proof of life. she was sunbathing, and I'm like, oh my God, how could she be sunbathing? It was cold. And, and then you made a very good point on Twitter when you showed how easy it is to remove the background from a photograph. And so it's possible that Jeff Littler even saw that photograph before, like if she had sent it when she was in Mexico, because we also know from in court that when she was in Mexico, she was texting with Jeff like 70 times a day. And
Yes.
Barry had chased her and tried to get her phone from her to find out who she was talking to.
Yes. Yeah, he knew. He knew at Mexico. You don't. He went crazy, like chasing her around the resort. It must be terrible for the kids. Macy and was texting Dan, and then Barry texts Macy back and said, it's not your mother who's receiving these messages.
Yeah.
Basically told her that he could see the messages that she was sending. And the other thing is that the phones are linked. It says that, like Iris Eaton says in her lawsuit, it says there's it's so many different documents. It says, and even in the preliminary trials, they said that when it suits them, they'd say, oh yeah, the phones are all linked, but then it's trying to oh no, we didn't know passwords and blah blah blah. Barry had the accounts. Do you know what I mean? Barry had the accounts. He even says it in the affidavit that he knew her password and her account number. That Suzanne gave it to him. Not the password to her Facebook, but the password, her
cloud and all that.
Yes, and it says it in the affidavit. But so you got. There's so much there. Like when you look at the kind of messages that Suzanne was saying to Jeff just before, like here's one from Jeff now. Baby, I've known from the beginning that we were perfect for each other. You are perfect for me, right? That's from Jeff to Suzanne, and Suzanne says, cannot live my life without you in it, right? Now there's the shortest message that Suzanne has sent to Jeff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She didn't send short messages. And when she's talking about stuff like this, I'm looking at these messages here now. I'm not going to read them all out, but they're long, loving, you know what I mean? Thought are well constructed, like his are just like spat out grunts, as I call them. They're just there's nothing. They're nonsensical. And why would this same person? This is the thing. This is the same person that sent this message just the day beforehand, or 2 days beforehand. Like this is one of the messages now. This is what I want coming into the end of our lives. This is what I want. I want the things that are lasting. Your heart, who you are. That's what I crave. Just this person I love. I love how you love me. I love how you think. I love, what I mean? I love.
Yeah.
We can get through. I'm sure of that. Like.
Yeah, I noticed.
It's hard to believe that this is the same person sending, these. There's no urgency here. She's constructed this message. She's put thought into it, like she did with her list of grievances. Even though they are kind of bullet points. Do you know what I mean? They're like bullet points because that's what she's doing. She's mentioning these bullet points, and in the list of grievances. But this is what's happening on Saturday. All the messages are like bullet points. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
They're like tasks like uh, tires, hike, you know what I mean, hot tub chemicals, you know what I mean, all these, get the hot tub stuff and,
Yeah.
orders, you know what I mean? Like, when I go to work, my wife would only ring me if I go to work if there was an emergency or something. You know, do you know what I mean? Or she might text me to say, ring me when I'm on my lunch or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be getting message. I get nothing done otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There'd be trouble. Like, you know what I mean? I'd be saying, I'm trying to get work done here. You know. So I've done similar work to what Barry used to do. You know what I mean? So he wouldn't. This wouldn't be going on, and we know for a fact that they didn't communicate for nearly 14 weeks. Up to May 4th. May 4th is when the first time they communicated. So and then you got Barry saying, "Oh, that she took to the drink." She took to the drink after the girls went. So the girls went May 5th, right?
Yeah.
He stayed out May 5th, didn't come home. May 6th, they had a big on Wednesday they had a big argument. She was over at Jean Ritter's having coffee in the morning, and she told him that she was done, right? And
Yes.
then next thing he's sending loads, ringing her, she won't answer the phone. And next thing, I think he rings 6 times consecutively in about 5 minutes, constantly ringing her. Then she rings back to him, and there's a conversation. And then next thing, he's sending her suicide texts, these suicidal texts now, saying that he's going to top himself or whatever. And then that night, that's the Wednesday, they go out then driving around in Salida that evening, and he's driving like a lunatic. He's driving, swerving all over the road, like with Suzanne in the truck. So this doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? And where's the bitchiness? Where's Suzanne saying, "Oh, he was out last night. We went to get pizza, and all he was talking about Arizona and God, where's all
Yeah.
that?"
Yeah.
No, it was like he couldn't bring himself to write anything in those messages that was bad about himself.
Exactly. And we know that she did complain about him. And
Yeah,
the whole pizza thing is really an interesting mystery. What with all the people that are insisting that the picture exists. I remember it being brought up. I took note of it being brought up at court, but I never saw it. I was at the
fairgrounds.
satellite fairgrounds,
Yeah.
so I couldn't see the screen where they put up evidence if they had ever put it up in court.
All right, I didn't
And
realize that. Yeah.
yeah, I could
Okay.
see the audience. I couldn't see the stand
All right.
or the displays. I could just see. Well, one time they changed the cameras. There was a police officer that was working the Zoom thing and projecting onto the wall at the fairgrounds, and most of the time it was just looking at the out at the gallery. Oops, I hit the. Sorry if I blew anybody's eardrums when I just hit the microphone there. But anyway, I do recall that they switched camera views and let us see when they were doing the body cam footage, but they didn't. Most of the time it was just looking out at the gallery. Most of the time it was focusing on Barry and his table, and that was it. Anyway, now I got a little bit lost on what I was saying. So I've got a.
No, you're talking about the pizza, and you're
Oh
saying
yeah.
that the photograph.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I have even gone on my channel and told people I would pay for a copy of
So
that
the
picture,
court.
and Kurt did too, and we've gotten no takers. Nobody's come up with this photograph, and then there's the craziness about how the official transcripts for the day that the picture was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
it it has been altered, but is part of it missing or something?
Well,
Because
this conversation that you're talking about now is missing, is not in the transcripts.
yeah,
Because I've got all 4 pages of 4 days of the transcripts. I've got the 4 days, and I've read
yeah,
them top to toe umpteen times now at this stage, and there's no mention of that discussion. And I know there's time missing from the transcript. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But taken from what we have, Lauren, we have got yourself, we've got Jules, we've got um, uh, what's the other girl? The Franco. Was she there?
Ashley Franco, yeah, she was there.
Ashley Woods. And then there's Carol was there as well.
Yeah,
Carol McKinley. So, and we have copies of all their. We have copies of all their transcripts. You know what I mean? Of what they said.
yeah,
And there's no mention. They mention it. Every single one of them mentioned the same thing about this photograph that Suzanne took of Barry standing in line outside the Moonlight Pizza, and then sent to the girls who were on their. And then that's disappeared from the transcripts.
yeah, and it's very strange because also the transcripts show as well that Iris, when she backed away from the pizza, her whole thing was at one point she said that Suzanne went with Barry to the pizza place, took the picture,
Yeah.
like that. But she also said that at the same time that Barry was at Moonlight Pizza, Suzanne was back at the house texting Jeff.
Yes.
So it's like,
And you see, I've gone through all this. I've refined to come, and we could talk about this tonight in detail, but I'd probably leave it for another night maybe to talk about this because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
Because number one, Iris got mixed up with May 6th and May 8th, and she mixed up the whole court. Like the prosecution were shuffling through pages. The judge was lost, and then next thing she mentioned about some event and they were saying, and then they were saying they can't find it. Nobody could find it. And next thing she says, try May 8th.
Mhm.
And so she was jumped from May 6th to May 8th. And I think the whole transcript of May 8th is mixed up with May 6th in the court. From what I read through the transcript, that even the prosecution got mixed up. They're talking about May 6th, even though it's May 8th. So,
okay.
yeah. Because I don't believe that Suzanne went for a bike ride on May 8th. She might have, but I think she went for a bike ride, which we know she went for a bike ride on May 6th. She went for that bike ride because it's in the affidavit, and it adds up to what else we know about May 6th, about the suicide text, and then Suzanne meeting up with Barry, and they're going for a drive around Ponce Springs or whatever. So that makes sense. But the one on May 8th doesn't really make sense. So I think they've mixed, as when you read through the transcripts, especially you read them a few times, you say to yourself, no, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up with the phone data either. And it's not adding up with the truck telematics and the Bobcat telematics. So I don't know. There's something out of order there.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now that got sent to me prior to this live that we're doing. And because I had gone on the media and told people what we were going to be talking about. And I've got one that's saying it wasn't Barry. It wasn't pinging where he was. They wouldn't have tried to bury this information if it showed he had it. We know he wasn't at the house when she was talking on Saturday either. Truck shows that. So that's somebody that is saying that it wasn't Barry on Suzanne's phone because they're saying that Suzanne's phone was pinging at
the house.
At the house.
Yeah. No, I agree, Suzanne, and even you see it in the affidavit, and you'll see it, I think, in some of the court documents as well, where it says that Suzanne's phone was at the house all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I agree, but there are ways of having duplicate phone,
Mm-hmm.
and you only have to go on the internet yourself, and you can see there's different ways you can clone a phone, you can pair a phone, and you can also use the same ID. So you could have two phones using the same ID, and then you can mirror the phones, which is the same thing as like pairing them. So there's only recently I put that up on Twitter there, but you can, if you read through that stuff I have on Twitter, you can mirror the phones. You know what I mean? So if Suzanne's phone was always at, say, from Friday afternoon right through till Sunday morning, if her phone was all at the house all the time, that's where the signal would be of Suzanne's phone.
Mm-hmm.
But if now, as we said earlier, you could have somebody else who's at the house sending messages, or if their Wi-Fi, would it tell where the phone was coming from if those messages were sent through the Wi-Fi at DSI? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If they weren't, they're not SMS messages. You know what I mean? They're not.
Yeah.
They're just through our LinkedIn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So
just
the other messages, it's interesting about those other messages, like, you know what I mean, because it's definitely Barry is if you look at it, it's happening somehow. Now, I can't say 100% how he's doing it, but I know there's people out there who do know, and if somebody does, let them message me here and or message you or whatever, and to let us know about it. You know what I mean? How he could be doing this.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just I'll admit it, I'm not as techie as Barry is, and he was techie. There's no two ways about it. People saying, "Oh, he's too stupid," and blah blah blah. This guy had GPS, Garmin GPS devices for tracking. He used them for hunting. He had three of these devices, these GPS devices, that you could use. You could also use them as two-way phones, or like what you could do with these things, like way over my head.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they were in the safe. These you see them in the safe. You zoom in, you can see these. Kurt done a couple of videos on it.
Yeah, they can go on the internet and everything.
Yeah, the whole thing. So, and even to pair, like I've paired my phone. When you buy a new phone, you put it beside your old phone, and you just put it beside
Yeah.
each other, and that's it. But that's easy to do. Like, this stuff. He's very friendly with this guy, David Kissel, or whatever his name is, David Orion, the Apple guy. Because if you look at Barry's truck, the details on his truck, when you go into the phone part of it, it says on it David Orion. That's the name on all the phones.
Huh.
So this is how we found him. Well, we found him through different means, but through the witness list and whatever. But yeah, he's just there across the road from Morgan's, where Morgan was living. Just
Oh, okay. Over there
yeah,
by the auto parts store.
yeah, just across, just that building where there's you've got your what's in there now. Ramsey was in there. George Ramsey had offices
yeah.
in the area. And so there's Little Columbia is in there as well. They have a restaurant in there. There's the one down by the river, but this one as well on G Street. So Yeah, and that's not far from DSI. DSI is only just 0.7 of a mile up the road. So
Yeah, small world and
yeah,
very small pool of. I I just feel like it should have been moved. The whole prosecution of Barry should have been moved someplace else because there's just too many ties, too much that you can raise an eyebrow at in the whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Like I remember coming across where Barry, when we see Barry and Shosho moving out of the house,
Uh-huh.
there at Punch Lane, not Punch Lane. What was that? Oh. But Ramsey lived next door to them. He had property. Now he wasn't at the time, but Judge Ramsey actually lived the house next door. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, just
And then out by Garfield, he had another property out there, which
yeah,
which
yeah,
I
and
came across when I was looking at the mines and stuff like that.
yeah,
So
and Judge Ramsey just like you were saying, where his office is
yeah,
also, but where the iPhone tech guy that's buddies with Barry is, and
yeah,
it's just way too many connections with everybody.
that's the thing. It's Slide is a nice kind of size of a place, but it's still very small. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like when you start looking into people there, and if you go to their Facebook and you see the same people constantly overlapping,
yeah,
this one's friends with this one, with friends with this one. You know what I mean? They're really all connected. It's strange. It's strange when you come across somebody that isn't connected. You know.
yeah. And let's see, another question or comment, whatever, was that someone is saying that the bikini photo was metadated for that day, meaning Saturday. And I don't recall it
There's no mention
saying,
of that anywhere. I don't know where that
yeah,
information has come from because there's no metadata on the photograph. Like there is for the Instagram ones of her biking ones.
yeah,
Up at the
that's what
trails.
I thought. I
The
didn't
metadata's
recall.
up there, but there's nothing with that photograph. There's nothing, and you see, they never recovered Suzanne's phone, and they
Yeah,
didn't have Jeff's phone either. So
yeah,
all they had, this photograph could only have come from the iCloud, do you know, from the LinkedIn account and from like they had his LinkedIn account and Suzanne's obviously, but that's the only way they would have got uh, this particular photograph from would have been either from Jeff's LinkedIn account, but not from his phone, just from his account, like they
yeah,
subpoenaed or whatever his or got a warrant for his account. He gave them all the information. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, that's not true. There's no metadata, and the other thing is, do you know yourself? Like I done made up some photographs. I removed the background of that famous photograph of
uh-huh,
Suzanne with her hand up to her head. Do you know that
yeah,
one?
yeah.
Her fist up to her
Where's
forehead.
with her
Yeah,
bike? The one with the bike helmet or the other one? Oh, the bike helmet. She didn't have her hand up. I know which one though. I think she's
yeah.
wearing a dark top.
I sent it to you actually. I sent it to
Yeah,
you on 1 second. Let's see. Yeah. Second. Sorry. But basically, you can remove the background of those photographs like that in 1 second. Do you know?
yeah,
And years ago, like you'd have to go in there and you'd spend a bit of time, removing you clicking and removing. But now you just say move the background and it just does it. And then you can
yeah. And
and
there are
that's
so many
if you
free.
see that photograph, and I put different backgrounds on it, and look, who's to know? Do you know,
Yeah.
it's
And
it's the worst photograph of all the photographs of Suzanne that's out there.
yeah,
There's
like
a
it's a photo of
reason.
a photo.
Quality. Like, yeah, it's all pixelated. When you look at her nose, it's like square, just at where her nose is, and it's all like pixelated, and her eyes, and some parts of it's it's not a genuine quality. Why don't I have the proper photograph? That's what I'm asking.
Exactly. It's not like it's one from a phone camera. It's more like it's
No.
one that's taken from someplace else, like like it's from an Instagram or something, and
Yeah,
downloaded and
and
screenshotted.
screenshot it. Yeah, that's what it looks like,
And
and then taking a photograph of.
yeah. And let's see. Oh, and then people were also mentioning that there was another search warrant extending the phone records, saying that they wanted to take it all the way up into June for Suzanne's phone records. And some people are thinking that that meant that they thought Suzanne was alive at that time. I'm thinking it just meant that they were
Iris
suspicious.
Eaton, Iris Eaton said that Suzanne's phone was used on May 20th. Now, what happened is on Suzanne's, one of the first things I looked at when I started into this case was at her Facebook, Suzanne's Facebook, and I noticed there was a check-in at May 18th and May 19th. And now I'm obviously 7 hours difference. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So what it'll tell me, it will be different than what it'll tell you because of the difference in time. So, but this is when Barry was in Alexandra. And so, why did Suzanne's phone check in Alexandra when Barry was there?
Yeah. Yeah, that was suspicious to me. And at that time, I thought that he must either have her phone or have her SIM card and popped it in or something and made it do that.
Or have her Facebook on his phone,
Yeah,
even.
that's true.
I mean, or
Yeah, duh.
was
That would
was
be
on
easy
his
to
phone at
do.
one stage.
Yeah. And yeah, at one point someone had told me that they thought it meant that somebody tagged her, except for I've had people tag me and my timeline never said that I was someplace else.
Yeah. No, that was definitely her device was definitely in Alexandria on the 18th and 19th of May,
And
or a copy of it. Her account was there. Her Facebook account was there.
and of course I've been super suspicious of Barry and of various people that could be paramours of his, especially once I found out that he was into true crime and everything. Because of the case, there's a young mom who was killed over in Teller County. Her name's Kelsey Barrett. Patrick Frazee is the father of her child. He is doing time for her murder. He's gone away forever. But anyway, his girlfriend had helped him, and his girlfriend had used Kelsey's phone to try to make it look like Kelsey was alive longer than she was, and then she ditched the phone in Idaho and stuff. But the Iris Eichmann and Drew Nielsen are the ones that represented the girlfriend and got the girlfriend,
Yeah.
a wonderful deal. And I can't help but think it's a pretty interesting coincidence that then that becomes Barry's defense team.
Yes.
So
Yeah. There was a stroke pulled there, and everyone knew about it, Jules.
yeah.
Like everyone knew about this stroke that was pulled with getting the Judge Ramsey in there and getting rid of Patrick Murphy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Ramsey, for many reasons, didn't really have any business sitting on this either. And then we have the strange people going in and attacking me and Kurt for bringing this to everyone's attention when and like saying we sicked Linda Stanley on Judge Ramsey, and we did no such thing. We just were bringing it out to the public so the public could look at it, and so it could get to the proper judicial authorities to look at it, if there was anything improper. And it's just crazy how people jump on the bandwagon of trying to slay all the YouTubers when we're just exposing the truth. That's it.
Yeah. When we didn't have affidavits and we had very little information, all of us, all the YouTube channels and whatever, we all used each other, to get snippets of information, whatever was being leaked out. And I remember at the very beginning that the story was that Suzanne was messaging with her best friend, Sheila, backwards and forwards all day. And in the evening time, the afternoon time, her phone just went dead. That was what we were told.
Yeah.
To find out now that there was 2 messages sent to, I think it's very early in the morning to be getting messages. I don't know about you, but for me, if I was getting messages at 7:30 in the morning, I'd be thinking, that's a bit odd. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people, they kind of wait to they've had their breakfast and whatever, they're up and, especially if there's kids and stuff going on and, you know what I mean? So it's just strange how those 2 messages happened while Barry was sitting on his bobcat or in his truck with the bobcat running on the back of the trailer while he was sitting waiting for Morgan Gentile to appear. Do you know?
Yeah.
Very strange, and once I found 1 or 2 of these, I said to the court, I said, I'm going to go to get all of these times. And I can guarantee you, he will not be on a phone call with somebody else at the same time, or he will not be driving. Well, driving on the calls is one thing because he can just press his
hands-free thing.
Hands-free thing, yeah, and on his truck. But the long text messages, they're all, well, not that he has very long text messages, but but the ones, the stuff like about the house up in up in Rainbow Trail, that is something he would have sat down and had to get on his phone onto the local stage and whatever and see what picture and then copy it and then, but that's the thing about Saturday or Friday as well. There's no time. There's no time for this pizza. It's another rush. It's another rush thing again. We probably should talk about this maybe next week. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But Barry, Iris made a mistake when she was calculating the UTC time. She forgot about the so you at the moment you're in Mountain Daylight Time.
Yeah.
And so it's 7 hours between me and you now, and but so our daylight time has only just happened there recently. Yours has happened about 2 weeks before ours, so that's why you have UTC time, and then it tells you the adjustment. You know what I mean? And then you have an adjustment if you've got daylight saving time. So, but she forgot on the Bobcat data. It says at the top, it says -7 hours. and then it says +1. She forgot to add the 1, which brings it back to 6 hours.
Oh yeah.
So she was working out the Bobcat was 7 hours. So she didn't realize that while Suzanne was supposedly texting with Libler to say that Barry had left her alone again, that he was on his Bobcat in Pure Path, driving around the. So it's they came up with a story between Barry and Iris, and she had to get the times right because they have the times for these messages. So at 7:15, they said that Barry went off down to get the pizza. At 7:18, 3 minutes later, Suzanne was messaging Libler to say that she's alone again and this type of thing. And then this message is sent. And if you look at the messages that are sent, they're definitely Barry messages again that are sent. The ones on Friday night are not from Suzanne.
Mm-hmm.
The ones in the morning are from Suzanne. After that, all the messages from Saturday late morning, afternoon are all from Barry.
I also noticed that sometimes in the affidavit it says Suzanne messaged, and other times it says Suzanne's device messaged.
See, I'll tell you what happened there now. I'd say see, there was a couple of authors to the affidavit, and the affidavit was a lot bigger at one stage. So it was 200 pages, and then they had to reduce it down. And so they kind of butchered it in a way, because I remember we were on Discord and we had other people helping us and whatever. And we had one crowd that were kind of coming up with all the contradictory stuff. And,
okay, so we're just seeing different authors by the way things.
Yeah, you see different authors, and you see like where you have like Sheila Oliver was interviewed the next day, and then the guy who interviewed her got his facts wrong a bit. So a couple of days later, then Sheila Oliver was interviewed again, and then the story was straightened out. Do you know what I mean? I think she met up. I think they met her in person the second time. So there was a phone call. But because they were kind of saying there was Suzanne and Sheila were having a conversation, right? And everyone was running with that, but it wasn't until you read the second interview you realized no, it was no conversation. She sent 2 messages in the morning. Sorry, was it 2 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon, or 2 in the morning? I think it was 2 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. So the 2 in the morning that were opened, the 2 Snapchats were opened, but they were not replied to. And the ones in the afternoon, which is around 3 o'clock in the afternoon at that time, they weren't even opened. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I'm trying to get dense as much of this. Like, probably we could probably want it for another few hours on just on the Saturday bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just there's so much information there,
Yeah, I'm gonna peruse.
And the thing is, when those other messages come out, if they ever do, I can guarantee that they will be when Barry is sitting idle. There won't be any of those messages that will be while he's on the phone to somebody else or whatever's going on. Mm-hmm. And even trying to think of another 20 odd messages from Suzanne's device in the morning time. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I'm scrolling right now to see if there's any other questions that.
Yeah, I'll answer any questions you have.
I noticed that some people are asking about Kurt and wondering whether we're not affiliated with him anymore or anything like that.
Oh, no,
that's not the case at all.
No. I was chatting. I chat with Kurt and his lovely wife quite regular still. But
yeah,
and look, he'll be back when he's ready to come back, and
Yeah.
in his own time. Like he's got, like, to be
He's got
honest,
a lot of stuff going on.
we've been doing this now, Jules, for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And life is catching us up on our home fronts. You know what I mean? There's things
Yes.
going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that we've put on the long finger, really. Do you know what I mean? Both of us, you as well. You know what I mean? All these people that were involved in it. You know what I mean? We never thought we were going to be sitting here 4 years down the road. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. We didn't know there was going to be so much.
So no, he's
Yeah.
yeah. We chat and
And we're all still friends, and we're the three
yeah.
musketeers and all that, and I'm really hoping he gets his channel back because
And
he never should have
that's
lost it.
part of what he's been doing as well. He's gathering all this stuff that's there's a lot of this stuff that happened with an ex friend of ours. So
Mhm. Yeah. And let me see what else. So yeah, there's no tea regarding Kurt. He's our friend, and
yeah.
and we wish him the best, and we'll pass on your love to him, because I see some people are missing him as much as the rest of us are. So let's see what else. Okay, and I know that some people were asking, I can't find it where it was, so I don't know who it was that was asking, but we're asking whether this is still an active investigation, and it is. Law enforcement, I bug them every once in a while, and they're staying very professional, just telling me that they can't talk about it, but that it is an active investigation. It's not a cold case or anything like that. And also, there's been a lot of talk regarding where jurisdiction is, and people are saying that like Suzanne ran away and she like joined a cult or something, and got deceased out there in Moffat because of the cult or whatever. And I've done a lot of digging on that, and for one thing, the main players of the cult weren't in Moffat area at the time of Suzanne's disappearance. And another thing is that I do have an email from someone at the El Paso County coroner's office, which is where Suzanne's autopsy took place. And they were explaining to me the protocol and telling me that all records from the autopsy, all results, were being sent to Chaffee County coroner, because Chaffee County has jurisdiction, because they believe that the death or the crime resulting in death took place in Chaffee County, and that's just protocol. So for now, anyway, unless something else changes, that's where everything is going, is Chaffee County.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, there's look, you're gonna have people there who, no matter what you say, will believe that Barry had nothing to do with this. And that's we're thinking one way, they think another way. But I'm basing everything I have on facts. I can't talk about the other 25 messages because I don't know I know what some of them are, but I haven't got times for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I had the times, I could turn around and say, yeah, but this is the time this one happened. This is the time. I dug through everything. Like that's why I kind of went AWOL there for about 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I was gone anywhere. I couldn't do Twitter and I couldn't do Reddit and do this all at the same time because once I put a post out there, I'd reply to anybody. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone wants to ask a question, I'll reply to it. Do you know what I mean? So I couldn't do my research and do that. So I kind of went quiet for a few weeks, and then I compiled all the information, and this is what we're seeing. These times all match up. they're all in the either in the prelims or in the affidavit or in other court documents. And there's loads of other court documents, and you get snippets out of each court document. Some of them you don't get anything out of, but there's so much. I can understand how this affidavit was so big, because when you look at all the discovery, and you look at all the video cameras, and you look at all the, the fact that he was in Broomfield and he was in Salida, and then he had all the stuff with the Bobcat going on, and then his Bobcat not going on, or his truck telematics mysteriously disappearing. That's another thing. Do you know what I mean? The coincidences in this case, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just when you need to know where Barry is, all of a sudden he's in airplane mode and his Bobcat is not moving. Like you had Iris and Drew telling us that when Barry came home at 2:44 p.m., that he went, after he chased the chipmunks around the yard, he then jumped back into his truck and he drove back down to Salida Stove and Spa, not to buy anything, not to purchase anything, but to talk about his hot tub.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's funny how much of this hot tub stuff comes up when it is also known that the hot tub at the Puma Path house was broken, and at the time that the police first arrived there, it was empty and dirty and everything.
That's right.
And yet there's all these
chemicals in Suzanne's car, two tubs in two big jugs in the floorboard of her Range Rover.
Yeah, and the room in Broomfield apparently smelled more like it than it ordinarily would.
Yeah.
And it's just very suspicious, all of that. And when you put together all of these different coincidences, it's way too many coincidences.
Way too many. Like there's people in prison on a quarter of what is going on here with Barry. Do you know what I mean? The evidence is just so much evidence there, and of course, and now we're only working off what we know, what we have. Like law enforcement have everything. Do you know what I mean? So I'd have loads of questions if I could talk to law enforcement, but yeah, then they have, like I'd say, we've got a small percentage of what they have, but the only thing is, from that small percentage, I have studied this like under the microscope. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, which would never happen really in most cases. They don't. Law enforcement don't spend that sort of time. Do you know what I mean? When you see how many hours they've spent in this and that, even in the Alex Murdoch case, that I was looking at that, and that was a fairly big case, and that was all the same thing with the phone data. You know what I mean? Geofencing and all that sort of stuff, which should have been happening around Puma Path and in around Salida. You know what I mean? Especially for the Saturday and the Sunday. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the Friday. Yeah. But I'm after losing my thought there. It's just that law enforcement have so much more. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, for sure. And this time they're keeping their mouths shut. So
and I'm delighted they are.
Yeah,
because if people said, "Oh, what's going on? It's looking bad," I don't look. We've always seen what judges have done in this case, and what the influence that Iris Eaton and her cronies have in this case as well. So that won't be happening again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I don't know where it's going to, who's going to take this case on, or is it what district or which? I'd imagine it's going to be in the 11th, but I don't know.
Yeah, and and if the 12th ends up having jurisdiction, I wouldn't be surprised if they did move it like to a Denver area or something, because it's even smaller than Chaffee County, and they would be needing to get a jury pool and all that stuff. So, um, regardless of where the jurisdiction is, it won't be Linda Stanley prosecuting this. She's got court
No.
coming up in June.
Yeah.
And they've already got a deputy DA, which may be the one that's becoming the active DA at that point. And let's see, and someone's asking if AK is ill, and I'm not going to discuss that because that's
No.
his own
No.
business, and just say that we'll let him know that all of you guys are worried about him and have been asking about him.
Yeah. Oh, look, we'll see AK when he's good and ready. Do you know what I mean? And that's all I like to say. And I know he's not giving up one bit on this. Any of this. It's just circumstances at the moment. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to discuss the same. I'm not going to say he's not well or whatever. I'm just going to say that he's in good spirit. Let's put it that way. He's in good spirit.
100%. Well, Martin, are you going to be able to join me next weekend? And
yeah,
you want to do that on Saturday or Sunday or?
Look, I'm easy, Jules. I'll go whatever you want to go, whatever day suits you, whatever, and we can have a plan. Maybe we could go over the Friday, or there's loads of things actually.
Yeah.
We could. There's so much we could talk about here.
Yeah, and
I'm concerned about too much information at one time.
Yeah,
and it's not because it's just that people drop off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
More so, but yeah. So whatever we want to discuss, we could discuss Friday, if you want, and how Friday leads. Like, this is the other thing they were talking about Moffat the other day, earlier this day, about Moffat. Like, if you look at the Friday, you can see where, and the beginning of what we talked about earlier on, the beginning of Saturday, you can see what's happening with the phones. And when Barry arrives home at 2:44, and you see all these crazy pings around the house, there's a reason for all these pings that are going around the house. Because there's multiple phones. Do you know what I mean? Of the same phones.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you see it happen again on Friday night, Saturday morning. At midnight, around midnight, and then a couple of hours later it happens again. So it's like when Barry seems to arrive at the house, you seem to get a lot of these pings at certain times, and when he's, before he goes to Broomfield, you get the same thing again at 4:00 in the morning. Between 4:00 in the morning and 4:30 in the morning, when the bike is being planted and the helmet is being planted and a few other things have been planted, that's the phones are going off again. So yeah. So yeah, I'm good, Jules. I'll go along whatever you want to do. I'm just gonna have a quick look to see if there's any messages here that I want to address in the.
Okay. I think we decided that Sunday would be good for the rest of us, so hopefully that'll work for you.
Yeah, no, Sunday's good for me. Yeah, this time again would suit me because it's just gone 11 o'clock here. So, mind you, we've been on for 2 hours, Jules. Okay.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. And so we can just find out if there's any questions for you that you want to answer. And
the Rachel Riley case. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't really, to be honest. I look at. I want to look at some other cases, but to be honest, I find I looked at the young Sebastian, um, the autistic boy that went missing in Tennessee.
Yeah, so that,
Um, I looked at that case a bit. I've looked at a few other cases, a bit of the Coburger case, and obviously Summer Wells at the time, and a few others, but not into the same depth. Not that
yeah,
I'm getting records and I'm affidavits and all that sort of stuff. I couldn't do it, to be honest. And when this case, whatever I finish up in this case, I don't know what I'll do. Whether I'll go maybe pick up another case, but I don't think I could do so many cases like that, and give them justice. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
If you get me, like I see AK, and I used to say to AK, I don't know how you do it, man. You know what I mean? You got so much juggling going on, and like I can't do that.
yeah,
Now I did look at the Murdoch case. I did look into that one because that was similar to Suzanne's case. There was a lot
yeah,
of similar things in it. And oh, I was delighted when this guy came with the phone stuff. Right at the where the court case was going on. There was late evidence coming in, and that's what I'm hoping here is that all that geofencing and they look at all the sort of queries that we have here, because like I know something happened. Do you know what I mean? I know
mhm,
what happened, but I can't explain exactly how he did it. I know it's like you look at David Copperfield when he made a jumbo jet disappear on, like we we know the jumbo jet didn't disappear. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Uh, but we kind of know what happened. It was a trick. It's a trick, or it's a whatever. But we know that Barry did this,
yeah,
and that whether he had help, which it could be the fact he might have had help, and it could have been a couple of different two people that I think that it could be,
hmm,
or he done it himself. Which, I think if he could do it himself, would be the right thing.
hmm,
But there's this phone that's second device that's connected to Barry's phone, and when you look at the times of these phone calls and messages, they link into specific times of stuff that's going on. Like just after when I believe Suzanne was killed, there was a
hmm,
message that was sent out from that device. And then when Barry arrives at the hotel in Broomfield that morning, there was a message sent. And then there was another message that was sent just after the truck was taken down to the FBI. That there was a message sent. You know what I mean?
hmm,
So there's calls and messages that are sent at specific times that tie into, and this phone is tied to Barry, and it's been there since November of 2019. So it stinks of an affair. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And so, and just because somebody's having an affair with somebody doesn't mean that that person is involved. Do you know what I mean? Like we
yeah,
see it in the Watts case, even though a lot of people still believe that she was involved. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
um,
for sure.
yeah.
There, I at the very least she knew more than
Oh yeah.
it's knowing.
100%. Yeah. 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 So
And
there's a lot, Jules, we could talk about. We could probably touch base maybe and see what route we go down.
alrighty,
Mhm.
that sounds good to me. Um, and I'll just also put in that what this case, the Morphew case, really brings home to me is the very first case I ever actually followed, watched on TV and everything. And I was quite young, but it was the O.J. Simpson thing, and
Yes.
I feel like if the technology that we have now, the cell phones and telematics and all that, if all that had been in play back then,
Oh yes,
he
100%.
would have been convicted.
Yeah, 100%. And but see, the other thing is the similarity there is Jules, is that he had the super lawyers. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's the same here. Like
Yeah.
you've got a sleepy little town, and then you've got the super lawyers have come in and against the the bit of a lackadaisy kind of a um, you know like a new DA and all this. As I said before, it was like the perfect storm,
Yeah.
and they came in.
Exactly.
And the good thing about the whole lot was that they dismissed the case because it was unwinnable because they had no professional or no witnesses. It was just and they pulled the rug from underneath Iris, and she was like, oh, she was like a demon. And she say her out there, she was attacking Lauren Schaff, and she was like, she's been sucking on a wasp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was so angry,
Hmm.
that her plan didn't come together. But I don't think she's winning one bit. And when you look at her, well, we've done it, Jules. Me and you, we've gone through her lawsuit, a fair bit of it. But when you look through it, it's a load of BS.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
It really is.
and it's out there to appease all the people who don't really know, so that you could be arguing and say, oh, the DNA, this like it's rubbish, like.
Yes, 100%. And and I think she's like doing it for his PR and stuff, but
Yeah,
also probably
justifying,
appeasing Barry too by making it look like she's doing something.
yeah, justifying her bill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she wanted this money for Barry so that she could get paid, not
Hmm.
not not
Yeah.
because Barry deserved it, just so that she could get paid. That'll keep her happy for a couple of years. But I think this case might affect her going forward. I think people might look at her under a different light,
Yeah.
especially if some of this stuff comes out. You know, like
Yeah.
I know we can't. So much stuff we can't talk about as well. Like, but
Yeah.
it's terrible.
But it's like,
Yeah, bite our tongue. Okay, I'll let you go, Jules. So, and let me see
okay.
if there's anything there.
So I'll talk to you between now and the weekend, and we'll see all these people on Sunday.
Yeah. Thanks, folks. And sorry, I haven't replied back to any of your in the chat. That's just me. I can't multitask.
Yeah, me either. So go ahead and message me on any of the social media platforms or anything. Any
Yes.
questions that you want us to answer.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. And you know what? If they put them any questions down here in the chat afterwards, I certainly answer some of them during the week.
Yeah, that's a good thing too. Yeah. So be sure to ask questions, and they will be answered.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. All right. God
Thank
bless
you,
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks, Jules.
Okay, bye-bye, guys.